Okay, so we're going to play around with the text tool and get introduced to it, and we're going to add some text effects. So you can see here I have already created some text, just some plain unrasterized text, and down here is also some plain unrasterized text, but I've added a layer style. If you're not familiar with what layer styles are, then I would recommend going back and watching the video I have on how to apply them. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these using the eye icon, and we're going to redo them so that you can see how I made them. So first, you're going to want to select your text tool, and you can do that by pressing T on your keyboard, or going over to your tools palette here and selecting the text tool, which is about a third of the way from the bottom. Just click on it, and then you'll have your text tool. Click anywhere on your document, and it'll bring up the cursor. Now, my cursor is really big, as you can see, because the last thing that I made with it was that large text. If your cursor is really small and you can't see it, like if it looks a little bit more like that, very tiny, then you're going to need to change your font size. And you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can use your character palette, or you can go up here to your options menu and use the size drop down, which is right here, and choose a larger font. If neither of these is showing, I'm going to show you how to reveal them. Okay, so if I were to click on the text tool and my text was really small, like that, and I didn't see anywhere to resize it, you have a couple of options. You can go to Window and drag down to Options, and that will bring up your text options, whereupon I can change it to something larger. Or what you can do is go to Window and drag down to Character, and that will bring up your text palette. And then you can change the font using this drop down here to 72. Then click back and your font is larger, and then you can just start typing. And so it's off the edge of the screen there, so I'm going to select my move tool or hit the V key and select that layer and click and drag it into the right spot. Okay, and that is how you make text. Another way that you can do it to constrain your text to a certain area so it doesn't run off the edge of the page like mine did is you select your text tool and you click and drag around the area that you want to make text in. And it'll form this bounding box and your text won't go outside of it. So I'm just going to type some gibberish and you'll see what I mean. Ta-da! It's constrained by this box. And that's really handy to keep things simple. So we're going to delete that layer. You can go over here to your layers and hit the trash can here, or you can hit the delete key. Usually on keyboards that's above the backspace. So I hit delete. And that's basically all you need to know about how to start making text. To change the text font, we're going to change the font next. You can go up here to your character palette like we did before, or you can come up here to your options palette and click on the arrow, and you can drag down to whatever font you would like to use. You can see my fonts changing in real time. If you happen to be hovering over a font, but you don't actually want to change it, just click away from it, and it'll go back to what it was originally. Same thing here. I'm using Kerning Bold, and if I'm hovering over these and I decide, well, I don't really want to change my text after all, just click away from your palette, and it'll pop back to whatever it was before. So I'm going to change my font to Kerning Bold. Bold Italic, no less. You can see my font changed. Your font size is here. 72 is the largest that shows up in the drop-down. But if I wanted my font really large, you can enter a number, 200. Hit enter. Why didn't that change? Oh, because that's the wrong one. Font size is here. I lied. It's this one right under your font face. So you're going to enter 200. And it's really big now. So we're just going to go back to 72. So this box that I entered the 200 in originally, that is your leading. That is the space between your lines of text. So I'm going to change this to kind of a small number. If I hit return in my text box here and write, this is some text again, you can see that these two lines are really close together, and that doesn't look very good. So you select your text and you go back to this section here, the leading section, and you make it something bigger. We're going to make it 60. So that's the space between the two lines. It's called leading. Another way you can change is click on, you can see these two little A's here with the arrow next to them. Click on them and drag to the right and left. And you can do that with pretty much any of the text controls. You can also do it with the font size. Drag right and left on this little icon to the left of it, and it changes size. Right underneath it is the kerning between the two characters. Which I pretty much leave alone. Kerning and leading, those are typographic terms, tracking and things like that. I am not the best authority on typography, so if you want to research that, I would suggest a Google search or even a YouTube search on typography, because I don't want to speak like I have any particular knowledge in that area. This one is tracking, and again, these are all ways to change your typography. And that's that. That's how you control the appearance of your text. Pretty easy. Another way to change the general size, if you want to change all of the text within a certain area, is you select that text area. And you can either hit Control-T to bring up this bounding box, or go up to Edit, Transform, Scale, and it does the same thing. You can click and change your text size. So we're going to hit Control-Z to undo, but you can also go to Edit, Undo to undo your previous action. Or you can go to your history palette, which is right here, and go back a step by clicking on the previous step. Okay, so now we're going to add some text effects. We're going to hide that layer. Hit T to open the text tool. Click. And no, we're not going to do all caps. Okay. And this is too small, so I'm going to select it, make my font size larger. And it's running off of the edge of the page again because I didn't use that bounding box technique that we talked about a minute ago. So I have to select my move tool and move it over. I could have saved time by simply clicking and dragging with the text tool. Just something to note. So now I have my text and I want to apply a layer effect to it. So I'm going to double click on the layer. Another way you can do this is go to Layer, drag down to Layer Style, had to find it, and then Pattern Overlay, which is the one that we're going to use today. But to save time, I like to double click on the layer over here in the Layers palette, and that will bring up the Layer Styles window. So now you have your layer styles off to the left, and you have to find the one that you're looking for. We're going to click on Pattern Overlay. And I'm just going to move this down so you can see what we're doing. And there you see that a pattern has been applied to the text, much like it did in the Layer Styles tutorial video. So to select a different pattern, you click on this box here or on the little arrow, and your list of patterns will come up. Mine is really big because I've made all these. Yours will probably just have a couple of options up here at the top, 2 or 3 or so. Those are standard with Photoshop installations. So I'm going to select my polka dot pattern here. And there you have it. Hit OK. And this is kind of annoying to look at, so I'm not suggesting that you actually use graphics like these. But for efforts of teaching you how to do this, this is the pattern that we've applied. And that's kind of fun. So I'm going to double click on this again. We're going to make some changes. I'm going to go back to Pattern Overlay. And we're also going to apply, or we're going to change the blend mode of this pattern overlay, which means we're going to change how it affects the object that it's interacting with, in this case the fancy text. So we're going to go to Overlay, and that creates it's called an overlay effect, and it basically applying a layer of black to the green of the text. If we change the opacity, you can see it changes the effect of the dots. Same thing with the scale. I can change the size of the dots by clicking and dragging on the scale slider. And then you can come over here to the Styles menu, and you can apply other styles if you'd like. In fact, I've included this project file as well along with this tutorial, and there's a link to that in the About section of this video. So you can download that and take this and play around with patterns and add strokes. Like if you want to add a fancy stroke, an outline to the text, you can do one of these numbers. Click and drag on the size slider, and you can change your color down here by just clicking on the little black box or whatever color is there, and it'll pop up with this window. And not that I would ever suggest you do this, but we're going to change it to red. And that really hurts my eyes. So back to black it is. Hit OK, and there you have it. We have applied layer styles to text. And that's basically all you need to know about that for now. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, or any comments about anything that I've done here. If you know anything about typography, I would love to hear it, because that is not a topic that I am particularly knowledgeable about, and I'm sure other viewers are sort of wondering about that as well. Download the project file and go nuts. You'll need Photoshop to open it. Once you do, you can use some of the techniques that we've discussed here to play with your own fancy text effects. Have fun!